It's a new year and a brand new season of the European Le Mans Series, kicking the season off once again here for the 4 Hours of Le Castellet in the south of France. This championship first visited this location way back in 2010 when it was the Le Mans Series, and there have been several races since then. No longer with LMP1s, of course, that we did have in those days, but the three classes represented here, LMP2, LMP3, which is still relatively new, and the GTE classes. And we're going to be dealing with GTEs first of all in this three-pronged qualifying session, 10 minutes for each of the classes. And it's myself, Johnny Palmer, and the editor of dailysportscar.com, Graham Goodwin, to take you through it. Good afternoon, Graham.
Good afternoon, Johnny. Good afternoon, everybody. It's going to be a cracking afternoon's action here with Michelin Le Mans Cup race action to come. But before then, of course, 3 10-minute sessions for the European Le Mans Series cars. And what a grid we've got for the 2019 season. An improved grid of 9 GTE cars. We'll come to those in just a moment, of course. And then a massive grid of prototypes. 18 LMP2 cars. Yeah. 14 of the fabulous little LMP3 cars. And as I say, almost into double figures for GTE, with some new additions, with some old faces, and some returning sights and sounds. The best of them, I think, was the one we just saw. That was a Porsche 911 RSR. Welcome, though, to Castellet Racing to the European Le Mans Series for the first time in GTE. And this is one of 2 cars, 2 Ferrari 488s they're fielding for this season. The all-female crewed car. And it's Manuela Gosner, who we saw in the Michelin Le Mans Cup season closer at the end of last season, Rachel Fry and Michel Gatting.
And the 55 Ferrari, so this is the other end of the pit lane now, in the Spirit of Race portion of it. 55, for fans of the ELMS, will be instantly recognisable. This is the livery designed by Duncan Cameron, and he's brought his regular teammates, Aaron Scott and Matt Griffin, with him in 55.
Yeah, returning as well to the European Le Mans Series, the number 80 EB Motors car. A graduate, as Castellet Racing are this year, from the Michelin Le Mans Cup, and their second year in GTE with the Porsche 911 RSR. New look driver lineup for that one too. And this is the second Castellet Racing car. Claudio Schiavone, Piazzolla and Andrea Piccini aboard the number 60 car. Castellet Racing coming in with a vengeance on what dramas lie ahead for their endurance racing campaigns, both here in the LMS and at Le Mans. And, well, at some point, I think fairly soon, into the FIWC, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a Castellet Racing entry for later this year.
16 degrees Celsius ambient temperature. On the track it's a lot warmer, 24, but less of a chance of rain today as we had in previous days. What are we talking? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I think all 3 of those days we had rain at some point affecting some track sessions. We have had testing all this week, in fact. Now there's a new pit lane entry which you access basically going straight on, or not quite straight on, but veering to the right at 13.
That's right. Rather
than having to go through turn 14, which is Virage Dupont, and then jinking right at the last minute, and potentially there was going to be some contact there. So a nice bit of reprofiling. It was going to help the Formula 1 Grand Prix as well, which is here later on in the year in June. In fact, the weekend after the 24 Hours of Le Mans. This session's quite special as far as GTE is concerned, because it's the only session this year that the cars are going to be run at base weight, because success ballast.
30 seconds to go green, under 30 seconds to start LMGT qualifying.
Success ballast is a thing this year, and it's going to be based on the previous 2 races and where you are in the championship, so much so that your car could run
15 seconds.
As much as 45 kilos heavier than it will do today.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. LMGT session has started.
And with one more year, further evidence that Eduardo Freitas, our race director, has not forgotten how to count to 10, or down indeed. New pit exit arrangement as well now extends much further down towards turn 1. You can actually see the old markings on the road there in the background towards the middle of the circuit. And there's been a further slight tweak to just ease that transition. Cars coming out on cold tyres. So it'll be interesting to see how this affects things when we get into the real race running and the mixed class that we have here.
Well, I'm also projecting my mind forward just less than 24 hours into the future, when we're trying to get 41 cars through that first the corner, left and right, where turn 2 is off camber. And to be honest, even with a field of 35 cars, they very rarely all stick to the track on that first lap. So 41, I just keep my fingers crossed that all the bodywork, all the dive planes are still in place, leaving turns 1 and 2 on that first lap tomorrow.
Now, this is the point of the season where we all get used to some new names, some new colour schemes, some familiar colour schemes with different numbers. You name it, it's all going to be on track in the next half an hour or so with these 3 qualifying sessions. We're going to have very little time to explain much of that because the action is going to come fast and furious. The 9 cars all out on the Dunlop spec GT tyre. The field of 9 cars spread between Ferrari and Porsche in the European Le Mans Series this year. Whether or not we get some additional guest entries later in the season remains to be seen. But for right now, it's all about Ferrari 488s, Virage Racing, Spirit of Race, the Kessel Racing pair and JMW Motorsports against the quartet of Porsches, and they come from Team Project One, new to the LMS, and a second program alongside their WEC program. Dempsey Proton Racing, and I'll explain why that moniker is here in a moment. EB Motors and Proton Competition. Dempsey Proton Racing, Johnny,
yes.
A name we're more used to seeing for the WEC. That car, and we'll see that car, is the grey and black car we'll see on track later, with that moniker in order that the team can take up their auto entry for winning Le Mans last year.
Well, let's just strip it back. Normally we have a 77 and an 88 and they're normally labelled Proton Competition
Correct.
cars. On the entry list this weekend there's one Proton Competition and there's one car that's called Dempsey Proton Racing,
yes,
which, as you say, is normally an entrant in the World Endurance Championship.
Yep.
So they've chosen to enter their 2 cars and they're in the same next door garages, aren't they?
They are.
But almost as if they're separate entries
because in order to cash in their automatic entry for the Le Mans 24 Hours, they've got to enter a full season of ACO Rules Racing or of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, and they have to do that on the same license, team license, that they won their automatic entry when. They won that as Dempsey Proton Racing. They're already getting 2 cars through the WEC for that, so we have to have that.
Gotcha.
You will not miss when we see the Proton Competition car. Anybody who's been a fan of endurance racing for some time, you're about to see something very familiar. Well, it's a very familiar wrapper and a rather newer treat inside with a very traditional Proton Competition livery, and it is great to see that back. For now, though, we concentrate on who's out there on track. 51 Virage Racing, Alessandro Pierguidi, the reigning world champion from the FIWC, adds the ELMS to a CV that already includes a full season and second place in the Asia Le Mans Series in the season just past. Oh, big slide there from Alessandro.
Yeah, those tyres maybe not quite up to temperature, but he's going to give it some welly nevertheless. And earlier on in the week I did some counting up to find out how many former ELMS champions we have in this year's entry. Well, that totals 18. Not just overall titles, but championships won throughout the classification as well. I didn't even include Pierguidi because he's never won in anything in the LMS.
Absolutely. So you add in, as car 55, the Spirit of Race car, gets the lap deleted.
Already.
So Virage Racing will go to the top of the timing and scoring. Your Bergmeister for Team Project One crosses the line now with this new livery for the car that was their super sub car for the car that burned at Sebring. This car back now where it was intended to be in the LMS. A new car will be delivered to Project One for their WC campaign. But yes, if you add in all the rest of the ACO champions, the number's well over 30, with Le Mans winners, with Asian Le Mans Series winners, with FIWC championship winners. And there is the car I was referring to. And
I thought it might
that
be.
That is fabulous. Felbermeyer colours aboard the number 88 car. That's something that if you've been around endurance racing for a while, you'll recognise. Horst Felbermeyer Sr. owns this car, was with us at the circuit yesterday. All of 74 years old now, has not really raced since a really serious shunt at the Le Mans 24 Hours, well, about 8 years ago. His son, though, will be doing a one-off appearance with the team. At the moment, planned to be a one-off appearance with the team, but that car will stay in Felbermeyer colours for the season. New look as well for the 77 car. Much more black on what we saw as flat grey last year, wasn't it? So it's black and silver. There is Horst Felbermeyer Jr. And next to him, Garth Reed. That is Christian Reed's father. And back in the day, 20 years ago, we were very used to seeing Garland and Christian Reed and Horst Felbermayr Senior and Junior crewing their two-car efforts. Marco Seefried in the background there is one of the crew for the number 88 car.
Yeah, Marco's the silver in that combination, then Horst the bronze, and Thomas Preining now a gold, and actually now fastest in this session, being put out for qualifying duty. So 1:52.802 for the blue Felbermayr-sponsored car number 88. And we'll see. You know, if they get a good result this weekend, I think Horst Felbermayr Jr. might fancy a little bit more of LMS action.
I hope so, because he's been very welcome here. Thomas Preining, of course, already active in the WC as Porsche Junior duties. In comes that looked like the Lucic racing car to me.
Yeah, with sparks flying off the wheel cap and the wheel nut. And I was told how much they cost earlier on in the week. I don't like to see wheel guns not quite seated correctly. No. On a wheel nut. Anyway, went on eventually on the front right corner of that Lucic Racing Ferrari, which is back on the move. Meanwhile, this is Matt Griffin, who's already had at least one lap taken away for track limits. Tend to see this from the Irishman through the 10-minute session. He really does push the outer limits of the track and then somehow rescues it from the abyss and puts in a good time with literally seconds to spare.
Heroic stuff always from Matt Griffin.
He just knows what he's doing.
Never
frankly.
Anything less than committed, and boy, he should indeed be committed. And that was really edgy there as well from Matt Griffin.
Need a few stills from that shot to see whether he'd got all four wheels off, but he came perilously close.
Matteo Caroli, meanwhile, has pitted, having just set the second fastest time of the session, all of 49 thousandths off Thomas Preining's best offer. Pierre Guidi back out now. He's third, ahead of Andrea Piccini in the first of the Kessel Racing cars. Then Michel Gatting fifth. Then Jörg Bergmeister in the Team Project 1 car. EV Motors in the hands of Fabio Babini. Matt Griffin sits at the moment 8th. And the new look JMW Motorsports effort, Jeff Siegel from the United States, joins us with JMW for the season. They currently prop up the order.
Cairoli's pitted, you might have mentioned that already, and
yes.
It's a full Dunlop tyre change, so that car's back on the move and just appears from behind the pit wall.
It has indeed, by the way. Car 55 has had that lap deleted. This is not going the way of Matt Griffin. He has just enough time to get 2 more laps in, but he needs to make one of these count.
Yeah, but as I say, this is not a first, and I often get a little bit worried about the 55, but I have a feeling that it's all in hand somehow.
Do you think he's teasing us?
He knows where he's pushing it too hard. He's just seeing how late he can break into senior, how much maybe he can lift perhaps into that very fast right-hander at the end of the Mistral.
Caroli, by the way, in and back out again. I think they've made a tyre change on that car.
They did. I watched it happen, and new Dunlops on all 4 corners of Matteo Cairoli's car. Porsche looking very good at the moment. In fact, the whole Proton squad, whether they be Proton Competition or Dempsey Proton Racing Mechanics, will be very happy with this. However, Thomas Preining,
big wiggle.
Mid-corner, senior, the car, a huge moment there. And he managed to mop it up. Thankfully, this track is rather forgiving with all the runoff, but Matt Griffin is off the track again. And that is the area of the track where the race directors, and he's off again, in fact, through the right-hander, the observers and Eduardo Freitas, the race director himself, are paying close attention. So he's going to have one more stab at this.
And only one.
In 55, because that car is currently 8th. Of 9 cars.
He might be lucky. There might be an opportunity for 2 here.
Lap 5 of car 55, deleted for track limits at T8. Lap 5 of car 55, deleted for track limits at T8.
It's almost like he's listening to us, Eduardo Freitas, but the ever eagle-eyed Eduardo Freitas and his trusty band of trackside observers and helpers in race control. There are few places on earth with more cameras than the Paul Ricard circuit here at Le Castellet.
Alessandro Pierre Guidi onto something rather special this time around as well. He's gone faster than anybody else through the first sector. He won't get an extra lap at the end of this one either. Thomas Preining says that's enough. I can't go any faster as the checkered flag's displayed. But he's parked it.
Flag will be presented for the next car crossing the line.
So Preining in the pits. Matteo Cairoli with brand new Dunlop tyres. Out to try and improve one more time.
Here comes Alessandro Pierre Guidi, though. It was purple for the first sector, quicker in the second sector than he'd gone before. Is it enough to get him onto the front row or even onto pole position? We'll find out in a moment.
Yes!
He does.
300ths of a second.
Wow.
Phenomenal stuff from the Italian. 152.772 from Pierre Guidi. And Thomas Preining now just 300ths of a second off the pole position.
79 thousandths of a second separates the top three, but Cairoli is going quicker this time. Could he actually do anything about this? This is his final lap. He's on the Mistral now.
The downside is he hasn't got anybody to take a draft from because the Ferrari, the Kessel Racing Ferrari up ahead, too far in front. That's Michel Gatting just turning right now into senior corner. Needs to be neat and tidy here, Matteo, and it is. So Porsche no longer on pole position for the first race of the season, but Cairoli could change that.
Lap 6 of car 55, lap 6 of car 65.
That is Matt Griffin again.
Deleted for track limits at T8.
So he cannot improve, Matt Griffin, and he's going to stay in 8th position for Spirit of Race. That's the Aaron Scott and Duncan Cameron car. I mean,
Cairoli, it's within grasp here for Matteo Cairoli.
Yeah,
he is so much quicker in the middle sector than Pierre Guidi.
Only 79 thousandths of a second off the provisional pole from Pierre Guidi anyway, and I think this is going to be enough. Over the line goes Cairoli by a quarter of a second. Phenomenal stuff from Matteo Cairoli. Brand new tyres for Dempsey Proton Racing, and they will take the first pole position of the year. Car 77, how late do you want to leave it?
And also, well done, Michel Gatting improves by 2 positions on that final that final lap, and she goes up to 5th position, 3rd row in GTE for Michel Gatting in the number 83 Kessel Racing car. Leapfrogs both Jörg Bergmeister and Fabio Babini with that last effort. Excellent stuff.
So Dempsey Proton Racing will start 1st and 3rd with Alessandro Pierre Guidi's time for Lucich Racing from Switzerland, brand new team to the ELMS this year. Car 51 will also start on the front row with Cairoli and Thomas Preining, who parked it just before the checkered flag, but I think in fairness all the good in his Dunlop tyres as far as qualifying performance was concerned had already gone, so there wasn't much more the Austrian could give. Andrea Piccini for Kessel Racing will qualify in 4th position, ahead of an improving Michel Gatting, as you say. There's the confirmation. 152.499 from Matteo Cairoli. Missed out on the title last year because he sat out one round for the Nordschleife, the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. So Jimmy Bruni came in. The Roders, Giorgio and Gianluca took the title, but Matteo Cairoli just missed out. Quarter of a second back to Alessandro Pierre Guidi's time for Lucich, and then the other Proton Porsche will start in 3rd position. I think Kessel will be pleased with that qualifying session. 4th and 5th in the end. Ebby Motors and Fabio Babini qualifying in 6th place ahead of Jörg Bergmeister for his first outing in ELMS, qualifying ahead of Matt Griffin. So many laps taken away from the Irishman in that session. And Jeff Seagull, who's done an awful lot of racing in the States, many Le Mans to his name, but never the ELMS Championship. So JMW Motorsport bringing the American to Europe, and the 66 car will qualify in 9th place.
Excellent stuff, and particularly excellent from Matteo Cairoli. We've been talking about him as being the coming man in Porsche Motorsport for some little time, and yet again, he does this one. Well, after Proton competition grabbing that pole position, we'll go down now to the pit lane where Louise Beckett is with team principal from Proton competition, Christian Reed.
Christian Reed's just getting congratulations right now. That was so close.
Yeah, it was a good lap from Matteo at the end, and we managed to come back for the first lap 2 seconds before checkered flag, so really lucky on the timing, but it was a good lap from Matteo and very good.
Okay, looking forward to the race later.
Sorry.
Yeah, he's obviously very pleased.
Yeah, no, it's to start the season with a pole position is always good, and anyway, the race will be 4 hours and a bit a tough race for sure, I guess, but it's a good way to start it.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Matteo Cairoli giving it plenty of right foot there, as we hear from Christian Reed with Louise Beckett, and now the Porsche number 77 just heading back into the paddock area, presumably with a little bit of post-session scrutineering to make sure that everything is kosher. And 10 more minutes appear on the clock in readiness for LMP3.
Indeed.
GTs.
Christian Reed, of course, shared that Le Mans win with Matteo Cairoli and Matt Campbell. So already had his heroics this year with the Bathurst 12 Hours. So this is a team that's just knitting beautifully well. They've had their woes issues with breach of regulations in the FRWC, but they're a fighting bunch, this lot, and they seem to have got their mojo back. Well, from GTs to the little prototypes, we've already seen 21 of these things around here in qualifying trim for the Michelin Le Mans Cup, Johnny Palmer. Now we get the 14 full season cars for the European Le Mans Series, and again, there's going to be some change of colour, people, numbers, you name it. It's all up for grabs in LMP3 qualifying.
Some familiar paint schemes in GTE, some brand new ones too, and 9 cars made that a very entertaining 10 minutes to ensure a pole position for Proton and Matteo Cairoli, leaving it incredibly late. But it does mean that we've got Porsches and Ferraris in the mix in the GTE category, with both marques represented on effectively the front row in GT's Grand Touring. So, baby prototypes next, as Graham Goodwin says. 14 of the LMP3s about to venture out onto the Paul Ricard asphalt, and 5 of them are Norma M30s. Generally, the mood in the camp, the mood in the paddock is that the Norma's going to be the far quicker car down the Mistral, and then it depends on how the Ligiers are set up. I mean, some of the Ligier teams are having to go so risky with setup and trimming the car out so much and making sure that that rear wing is virtually flat. It means they've got next to no downforce through the very technical start to the lap, and also there are a number of corners at the finish as well. And qualifying's a different story, because you're putting one of your best drivers, probably the best driver, in for 10 minutes. But when it comes to the race and you've got to cycle silver and lesser experienced drivers through, can they deal with a car that much on the ragged edge?
Absolutely, and we'll try and take you through as best we can in this 10 minutes, not just the on-track action here. Well, we have 4 hours to play catch-up tomorrow, but some of the changes coming into this year, and they have been legion. There's one returning crew. This is the 360 Racing team, the number 6 car, but this is a team that has doubled up this year. There's another, in fact tripled up this year, the
green and yellow.
Green and yellow from the Inter-Europol squad. The LMP2 car for this team still to come. Mix and match driver squads for this team. Returning pole position sitter in LMP3 in the European Le Mans Series, Nigel Moore joins the number 13 crew alongside Martin Hipper, race winner last time out in the European Le Mans Series and champion, alongside Kuba Shimowski, who's in the LMP2 efforts in the Asia Le Mans Series. The number 14 crew also with a new look driver squad. Paul Scheusner joined by Dino Lunardi. We last saw Dino in the Motorsport 98 effort that's now left this package.
Dino, a former champion in the European Le Mans Series as well, if you go back far enough. James Dayson standing next to the wall there. He's new signing at 360 Racing, another British squad who have doubled their efforts. So cars 5 and 6 you're looking at for there, with John Corbett, Andreas Lascaratos and James Winslow. All 3 of those drivers have worked closely with one another through prototypes, I think in radicals, but also they had to go at some Ginetta long distance racing as well in the Ginetta LMP2.
So the 14, it's going to be 2 car entries from United Autosports, 360 Racing, Nielsen Racing, we'll talk of them in a minute, and into Europol. Single car entries from Real Team Racing, new team identity but run by Graf Racing. Oregon team, watch for them. Euro International, who've had all sorts of ups and downs this weekend so far. Reigning champions RLRM Sport, with a brand new look to the car and a brand new look to their driver squad. Ultimate Racing, a very welcome return, as indeed RM Racing YMR, but with a single car this year. We're about to go green.
Cars on the move down the fast lane to the end of the pit lane. They'll be greeted by a red light at the moment, though.
30 seconds to open the pit lane.
And that's the reason why Eduardo Freitas making it clear that the session hasn't quite started. He will do the full countdown for us. And the M Racing squad, as it's simply named this year, rather than the YMR bit as well. It's still Ivan Muller looking after things.
It is, very much so.
Even though the YMR has been dropped from the official entry name. Laurent Millara, Luca Legeret and Jan Erlechet, who are very well known at that team.
1. Pit exit is green. LMP3 qualifying session has started.
Certainly Millara and Erlechet were racing LMP3s in the very first 2016 edition of the Road to Le Mans with YMR, or Erlechet was, and with a certain guy called Thomas Laurent.
Indeed, remember him.
He's moved on through the ranks, blimey, through LMP2, and now a full LMP1 driver, but Thomas Laurent, first on my radar anyway, in the Road to Le Mans 2016, when LMP3s were added to the mixture just temporarily. It was a GT3 championship, and they had a dollar bill of LMP3s in there and said, well, this is a good idea, why don't we do this for the whole of the championship? And that's how it's turned out.
And boy, has this come of age now, with 31 cars across the combined GT3 and the LMP3 grid. I'll give you some of the names who are out there into the fray. Christian England will take the number 3 United Autosports car out. 360 Racing's number 5 car in the hands of James Winslow. Ross Kaiser returns in the number 6 car. He's aboard that car. Colin Noble in the Nielsen Racing number 7 car. Now a Norma. That car has been changed in the off-season. James Littlejohn is in the number 8 Nielsen car. David Drew for the number 9 Real Team Racing car. Oregon team, Fioravanti, my apologies, aboard the number 10. Mikkel Jensen in the number 11 Euro International car. Nigel Moore comes to the track in the 13 into Europol. Dino Lenardi in the 14 for that team. Christian Olsen, whose father we saw a little earlier in the Michelin Le Mans Cup qualifying. Christian is aboard the 15 RRM Sport car. Ultimate Racing, it will be Mathieu Lehay, Lucas Legeret in the number 19 M Racing YNR, and Wayne Boyd will bring out the number 2 United Autosports car. We have 8.25 minutes left.
And the first gaggle to be released from the pit lane are about to head back across the line to start flying laps. So already 2 minutes into this session, and it's going to take a fair old time for the good times to come through. Generally, this tyre gets to the operating window very rapidly indeed, but one or two people said to me yesterday it's the cars that take a bit longer, and possibly also those behind the wheel just to get fully focused, but somehow we end up with the best times coming in virtually with the last laps completed.
Absolutely right.
And that's what's so exciting about these sessions. Graham and I always try and get at least each of the individual team names at the top of the chart at a certain point in the session, and that's very possible.
Yes, this is absolutely a class with real depth now. LMP3 is coming of age. We've got the new cars due for next year. We will be seeing, we believe, all 4 of those new cars on display during the Le Mans 24 Hours week in June. But for now, these are more than good enough. Oh, big slide there from the number 17 ultimate car.
Mathieu Lehay, unsurprisingly, being put in to qualify that car. A couple of pole positions last year, I seem to remember, and they came really close to winning the title as well. They were in the hunt going into the final round of the year, and with there only being 6 races through the course of 2019, as there was last year, then it doesn't give any chance for teams to get a significant distance unless they start winning every single race, but that infrequently happens in LMP3. So we're guaranteed a ding-dong fight all the way through, I reckon. And where's that leading batch of cars? I think probably number 10, which is the Oregon team, Damiano Fioravanti.
Just pulled by Christian Olsen on the road down the Mistral Straight.
Yeah.
Now we know from what we've seen in testing so far, in straight line terms, the Normas do have an advantage, but they tend to fall a little bit victim to a little lack of wilderness through the corners. But let's wait and see. We saw dominance from the Normas in the previous qualifying session. Already in trouble, by the way, is the Oregon car with a lap deleted for track limits at turn 8, turn 10. So coming through to put in the first of the flying laps, David Drew goes to the top with the real team Norma, the number 9 car, and Nigel Moore popping through 6.5 tenths back from that. Mikkel Jensen closes the gap though to a tenth and a touch for the Euro International team.
Oh, huge moment for one of the United Autosports cars. That's number 3. So that's being qualified by Christian England, a former ELMS champion in LMP3. And just to remind you about, or tell you for the first time, in fact, last year's pole time, 1:51.930. We're already well below that. But that was a pole for M Racing, for Nicolas Ferrer, David Drew and Luca Legeret. Well, Legeret racing with the team once again. David Drew is back again, but not with that outfit, as the number 2 car works its way through Virage Dupont, and that is Wayne Boyd, the 2008 Formula Ford champion in the UK. Took quite a few years out of racing, but now has been as part of the ELMS paddock for a long time now.
Goes to the top of timing and scoring, 1:51.446 for Wayne Boyd, a 10th ahead of David Drew. Lucas Legeret 300th back from that, so 0.143 of a second separates the top 3.
Yep.
0.247 separates the top 5. A quarter of a second separating the top 5 cars.
Speaking of David Drew, Real Team Racing is there with their new signing, Luca Leggeret, who took pole position 12 months ago, in 3rd place for M Racing then, and then through the Virage du Lac, which is the penultimate corner, car number 7, driven by Colin Noble with the Scottish Saltire emblazoned on the roof of that car. And the Nielsen Racing car goes top by 48 thousandths of a second. So Colin Noble now ahead. So David Drew improved because he's in front of Wayne Boyd, unless Wayne Boyd had that time deleted. Yes, he did. So Wayne Boyd had the lap that we reported on taken away from him. And Colin Noble definitely going faster, and Mikkel Jensen now in the Euro International Ligier, which is a brand new car for that team, fastest.
It's a brand new car for the team. It is the oldest Ligier LMP3 on the planet. That is chassis 01, arrived with the team yesterday evening after some, well, financial, commercial worries.
Yep.
So the other 2 cars removed from the paddock, I'm afraid. Those 2 cars that for Michelin Le Mans Cup here from Graf Racing, and also directly from Ligier, their initial test car. Last time I saw that car in anger, it was driven by Pierre Fillon in a test run at Estoril in 2015.
Luca Leggeret's gone through again for the number 19 M Racing squad. He's now 2nd fastest. We know he's a bit of a qualification specialist, having pinched pole position here at Ricard last year. So Leggeret's a danger for Mikkel Jensen, you could argue. Colin Noble, I'm sure, has got a bit more in the bag to give too. And Wayne Boyd, Mathieu Lehay, all of a sudden finds a clean lap. Well, the first time we glimpsed Ultimate, that car was very sideways indeed at Bose corner. That was a much more neat and tidy lap for the Frenchman. And what's the gap now? A massive 0.06 of a second.
You're watching Damiano Fioravanti, by the way, at the moment welded down in 12th position, but he's gone quickest of all in the middle sector. He's going to come vaulting up there. This is going to be close. We've got just under 2.5 minutes to go. Mathieu Lehay from Jensen Leggeret Fioravanti briefly goes into 3rd position, but that is hustled back down by, amongst others, Colin Noble goes up 3rd now. The top 3 separated by 0.071 of a second, less than 1/10 of a second across the top 3.
Fioravanti, we shouldn't be surprised at his pace. He was racing World Series Formula V8 cars in 2017, still only 22 years old from Rome. And he's going to be a man to be reckoned with for the Oregon crew.
Jensen stretches just marginally, just 300 a second away. That's enough for 1/10 of a second edge on Mathieu Lehay, just over 1/10 of a second edge on Colin Noble. So Mikkel Jensen back to the top. It's a Ligier to the top, the Euro International number 11 car. Quick shot there of the old master, Ivan Muller.
Dino Lunardi through and improves his time but not his position. So into Eurobowl competition there, 14 car in still 11th place.
Watching Nigel Moore though, he is on a flyer, currently sitting 7th, but goes purple first sector for him. Fioravanti goes purple in the middle sector and improves his first sector. It's going to go again. We're just about a minute to go in this session. Mathieu Lehay is going quicker.
About to cross the line. So Lehay, surely he can find a 10th on this lap. Yeah,
he does.
And then some. He actually finds 0.3 of a second, so that puts him 0.2 now faster than the rest of the field.
Mikkel Jensen, though, is going quicker as well. So we've got 4 cars here, which on the pace they're showing for the first 2 sectors could get into that top 2 or 3 spaces. Mikkel Jensen, 0.2 down after that effort from Mathieu Lehay. What can he do about the pace there? We watch though for Fioravanti.
Here he comes. He's about to go crazy bonkers again now because he's the first of a few cars.
Fioravanti
to the top, but how long's it going to last? Not long, I would say, because there's now about 4 cars to stream across the line. Mathieu Lehay improves again through the first sector. Mikkel Jensen surely about to come to finish this lap. Car number 11, yes, he's due in the next 5 seconds. So Mikkel Jensen in car number 11 for Euro International.
Does not improve.
It's improvement in time, but he can't get onto the front row.
Wow, Mathieu Lehay though is storming along and has a clear track in front of him.
So Fioravanti on course here for Oregon team's first ever pole position in LMP3.
Amazing stuff, and with a young 16-year-old debutant to come in that car. We'll talk about him tomorrow.
Yeah, but safe to say that the Lithuanian flag takes rightful position again in the ELMS entry. It's been a few years since that country was represented. Mathieu Lehay heading now through the left-hander at Gondor corner, and Garland is the next one into Virage du Lac, the 13th of 14 corners. The checkered flag is now out, but many of the key players have managed to squeeze an extra lap out of this. Mathieu Lehay, he'll see the checkered flag this time around. He was up through Sector 1. Sector 2 was pretty good, and he goes provisional pole by 0.1 of a second ahead of Damiano Fioravanti.
But Fioravanti's on a very quick lap as well, and I think he's actually up on the first two sectors against Lehay. Mikkel Jensen not quite there, but Colin Noble's quick as well. What can he do in the death of this session? As well as David Drew, who's also put in a couple of very quick sectors. So,
very balked indeed going through the final sequence of corners was Colin Noble. That might be it, you know, for the Scotsman.
To the top, Fioravanti goes to the top with 0.128 of a second for the Oregon team. Norma plays Norma, those two cars into the 149s. David Drew comes across the line to go third. Mikkel Jensen, what can he do?
Noble was delayed through the final sector. No improvement. In fact, he lost about a second in Sector 3 because of that traffic.
Mikkel Jensen can do no better than fourth.
And Luca Legere still due across the line. Legere goes third. Third in the number 19 car. So pole position last year for the young Frenchman. It's going to be a second row start in LMP3 this time around. But Damiano Fioravanti, with his GT experience, with his Formula V8 experience, taking to this Norma from Oregon team brilliantly well. An Italian with an Italian team, but it's a nice mixture of driving experience in that crew, and they are definitely going to be ones to watch in 2019.
There's damage to the front of that car, is there not?
I'm just beginning to think there may be, unless it's a bit of tyre pickup which has blurred across the nose of the Norma, car number 19 we're talking about.
Great qualifying then from Oregon team and from Damiano Fioravanti. And after top 6 went to the Normas in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, it's the top 4 go to Normas here in the European Le Mans Series. The 10 minutes of qualifying there. But that was super, super close. 0.128 of a second between the two cars that make it up the front row. Beyond that, about a half a second back from the pole position time, but two more cars on row 2 separated by less than a tenth of a second.
Oregon team with their first ever LMP3 pole position in the European Le Mans Series. Massive experience in Renault Clears and the Megane Trophy of previous years. Ultimate, second fastest. Mathieu Lehay tried absolutely everything there. Both cars into the 149s, but he could only come 0.1 of a second close to Fioravanti's time. Luca Legere for M Racing makes it 3 Normas in the top 3, and then a 4th from David Drew and the new squad, Real Team Racing. It's 0.7 of a second, the gap between the best Norma and the best Ligier. Mikkel Jensen is driving his Euro International car then for the first time this year, having previously raced with AT Racing, you may remember. And the 11 car then will start from 5th position ahead of Colin Noble, who was delayed in the final sector of his final lap. Question marks as to where he could have been, actually. Certainly troubling that top 3, but it'll be 6th place for Nielsen Racing. Nigel Moore in the number 13 Inter Europol competition car will start from 7th place ahead of the 8 car of Nielsen Racing. Wayne Boyd in the United Autosports car had a lap deleted, at least one, so that car number 2 will start from 9th. And in 10th place, the first of a couple of 360 racing entries this year, James Winslow qualifies in 5th position. So this the lull before the storm, and 14 LMP3 cars powering out onto the track, all powered by identical Nissan 5-litre engines. And again, it was about whether you could get a tow down the long Mistral straight and crucially miss the traffic. A spin early on for the number 3 car of Christian England. But it's Oregon team who take pole position. Let's get some reaction from Gustas Grinbergers down there.
Gustas, first time out in LMP3 will be for you this weekend, and first pole for the team. That's fantastic.
Yep, awesome drive by Damiano, and we're on pole for tomorrow's race. I think that sets us up really well for the race tomorrow, starting from pole. Maybe less of a chance of an accident in turn 1 and just head down, and the race is tomorrow, race is long, but first step is great.
And the team pushing all the way, obviously, to the end of that session. It was, again, so close, right to the checkered flag.
Yeah, always. The fastest times come right at the end of the session, and this time was no different. Again, the times tumbled all the way, and the ones who were quickest at the end are the ones that are full.
Were you?
Yep, us.
Thanks very much.
So,
Well, he did say to me earlier on in the week, we're going to be pretty quick this weekend.
Oh, they're going to be very quick. Gustav Gringberger's 16 years old. 16 years old, damn it. Already, I think I'm right, he's been Lithuanian karting champion, Polish karting champion, and Northern Italy karting champion. And real confidence in that young man. And you just got the hint of an idea of a maybe, that there's some steel there beneath that smiling 16-year-old face.
I think you're probably right. He's only just 16 as well, 24th of March,
Absolutely.
his birthday. So could be a record breaker in terms of first win, you know.
More or less anything, yes.
Yeah, because he's ahead of some other of the 16 and 17-year-olds that we've had in terms of where his birthday sits in the year.
Good to see Gerard Neveu there in the Teddy costume out there in the amongst the fans.
Likes to keep himself busy between sessions.
He does. 28 EDEC Sports Orica, one of, count them, 18 600 horsepower Gibson V8 engined cars. This is the new look to G-Drive. You'll see closer, I'm sure that it's a very different orange, gold kind of pearlescent finish, but it's not an Orica anymore. It's an Aurus. What is an Aurus, you might ask? Well, we'll get to that.
We will, yes, but if you're in the market for a limousine, look them up.
Look them up, absolutely. Climbing aboard one of the now two Panis Bartes competition Ligiers.
So this will be Tim Bourret, I would guess, clambering on board that car. 39
from Graf Racing, a team that reels in from 2 to 1 Oricas. That's against the tide here. And, well, an all-carbon rear deck on that car, so they've had some problems somewhere there. 35, BHK Motorsport, one of a number of teams stepping up from LMP3 to LMP2. This is their ex-G-Drive racing car.
Yes, we've seen BHK also in the Michelin Le Mans Cup for the first time this year, but is this their only car in ELMS?
It is, yeah.
So they basically switched the entry from P3 to P2.
They have. Two-car entry again for the Algarve Pro Racing team from Portugal. But in this instance, it's now two Oricas. Their Ligier has been moved on, and we'll see that car a little later, because that car is still here, but in the hands of another team. The 31 and the 25 mixes up the pack for Sam and Stu Cox, who run the Algarve Pro Racing team in their very familiar sky blue and white colours.
Yep, and one with a yellow dorsal fin, so that will help with identification.
Multiple Le Mans winner in all sorts of classes, Julien Canal will be part of the number 23 squad for Panis Bartes competition. And the other part of the story of Panis Bartes competition, they very much were the team, I think, that changed people's minds about the Michelin tyre in LMP2. Certainly were the prompt for United Autosports to make their successful change toward the end of last season. But they, in the days running up to this season, have switched to Dunlop. There are the two United Autosports LMP2s, two Ligiers there on the Michelin rubber. The Panis Bartes field two very similar Ligiers, but both those cars on the Dunlop rubber. Another team stepping up to the LMP2 class this season from LMP3, Cool Racing. We saw their three Ligiers in the Michelin Le Mans Cup earlier. This is their brand new number 37 Orica, and right on cue, that is the ex-Algarve Pro Racing chassis, now in the hands of Inter-Europol competition, the Norwich City LMP2 car.
Yeah, isn't that great?
And that car in the hands of Kuba Shimowski, ex-Formula 1 test driver Danny Kloss, and ex-ELMS champion, well, always been ELMS champion, Leo Roussel is the three-man crew for the full ELMS this year.
Yeah, and Leo winning that title in with Memo Rojas 2 years ago. Memo is also present on the grid. Meanwhile, at Inter-Europol competition, the LMP2 machine that we've been talking about, number 34, is finally getting prepped.
And that was Leo Roussel at the wheel, so we know we're going to say Leo Roussel in that one. There is one car we haven't so far seen. We'll wait and see that one. Spectacular new addition in terms of both the livery and the quality of the team.
23, Panis Bartes already on the move in a competition to try and be front of the queue. There's a mixed argument as to whether you want to be first out because of the Mistral Straight and the advantage that having somebody right in front of you gives. The green flag is now being waved though, and that means 10 minutes of qualifying cut and thrust qualifying, let's face it, begins now, and a clear track is certainly an advantage for your first lap. We might see one or two then just dropping back to find other runners in an attempt to eke out a few extra hundredths of seconds.
Second car there, the yellow fronted car, High Class Racing, another team making a change this year, switching to an Orica chassis. This is the team I was talking about, thunderhead by Garland Racing. And they are going to be the sole representatives for the full season this year, with the Dallara P217 chassis. 10,800 of your Derbyshire horsepower can be fielded with these 18, count them, 18 LMP2 cars. A spectacular full season LMP2 entry.
Yes, I'm surprised we didn't drive past a sign that read Repton, frankly, as we drove into Paul Ricard. You could be forgiven for thinking you were in that part of the world where these machines are built.
Well, as the cars come storming down the Mistral Straight, and just looking who is aboard the Garland car, it's going to be Jack Manchester that takes the car through qualifying. There is another new addition, it's the 43 car, the RLR M Sports car. Bruno Senna will take the 43 car, another team stepping up, of course, to LMP2. After winning the LMP3 title, John Ferrano, owner of the car, stays with the team.
You mentioned Jack Manchester. He was racing in the 1000k event here last year with, not in the same car as Ben Barnicoat, but Ben, his teammate, this weekend, and he have GT3 experience in the Paul Ricard 1000ks and some other big endurance races as well in the world of GT3. This is a whole new ball game though, with a huge amount of downforce. There's no traction control or ABS on these things either, and it's purely about how brave you are into the first sequence of corners at Virage, which is the very tricky, actually. You don't get quite a view of how difficult that exit is because it's off camber, the road drops away from beneath you, and it's so tough to keep the car within the white lines. But Jack Manchester manages to do that with the Dallara number 45. Carlin will be a team well known to single-seater fans for many, many years now. Trevor Carlin's team from the UK, who've run, well, pretty much every Formula apart from Formula One through about a 20-year period, if not more.
I believe something like 7 separate teams operated within the Carlin organisation, and whilst a fair number of them have come from one particular angle there, there's been a bit of a gathering of the clans to make up this effort, and they are very serious about this leap into sports cars. Great to see them here. And Jack Manchester storming through scene.
Yep. Car changing direction at the last possible moment, but he kept it off the curbs, which is crucial to a good time. And now heading into, well, the second part of Bose corner, and now into Gondor, the left-hander. Garland is the right-hander, and then Virage du Lac and Dupont finish the sequence. This part very, very technical indeed. I know there's plenty of runoff, so if you make a mistake, it's not going to be high drama, but to get a good lap time, threading your way through the red and the blue curbing is crucial. Neat and tidy this from Jack, I think.
It was, just fighting the car a little bit through the final turn there. He will be, it actually says it's Olivier Pla is actually aboard the car.
So
it's just changed, 1:42.075, and he comes through, what, something like 0.8 of a second up on Bruno Senna in the RLRM Sports number 43 Orica. They're the first to complete flying laps. Paul Caftan, though, blitzes that time, and I expected him to do that. He has been mercurial through this week so far. Paul Caftan in the 28 EDEX Sport car, a 1:40.494. That is the official qualifying lap record gone right there. 1:40.494 is 1.2 seconds clear of the next best for the moment, which comes, by the way, of Tristan Gomandi in the number 39 Graf Racing car, and the Fjordback, who's been on fire this week in their new Orica, the number 20 car, currently third fastest and a 10th back from Tristan Gomandi, third for High Class Racing.
Ben Hanley in a changed livery for the Dragon Speed car this year. Where there was white previously, there is now black, but it's still got the blue stripes on the dorsal fin and on the nose of the car with the white stars, the stars and stripes of American squad Dragon Speed, just heading out then of the right-hander. Ben Hanley has been racing IndyCar this year as well and put out for qualifying duties, perhaps no surprise. James Allen welcomed permanently to the team. having previously raced with Graf and been a race winner in the ELMS as well. The back end of 2017, James Allen was winning. Henrik Hedman is the third driver.
Yeah, indeed, James Allen now named as the test and development driver for their IndyCar squad as well. Paul Caftan looks like he's going quicker again this time. Ben Hanley second in the not suitable for work all over carbon Dragon Speed car. So it's 28 from 21 from 43 with Bruno Senna improving to third now. Lapierre, Cool Racing go to the top with a 140.335, and that is edged by 7 thousandths of a second by Paul-Luc Caftan. Game on.
Here is Paul-Luc then into the turn 1 and 2. First part of the lap, but job done already from Paul-Luc Caftan, and we'll see whether he's going to ease off at all now or go for another one. 7 thousandths of a second is not the biggest margin to be resting your laurels on.
Yeah, Ben Hanley wants part of that game as Nico Jamin in the Duquesne Engineering car goes through third, 3/10 off, a tenth ahead of Ben Hanley, who's going quicker this time around. So too is Norman Nato in the G-Drive car. We'll keep an eye on that progress too. It's purple sector for Norman Nato. Ben Hanley, where does he pop in? Actually, it looks like Jamin has lost that.
Has had a time deleted,
He has.
So Jamin, it's been deleted now. In fact, the message appeared a little while ago, but he drops all of a sudden to 16th place. Here's the Aurus 01. Looks a little bit like an Orica 07, some say. And into the penultimate corner comes car 26 then, 14th at the moment.
This is a quick lap though from Norman Nato. Winner here last time out, of course, with Racing Engineering. Where does he pop up? And the answer is to the top, 140.142, just under 0.2 of a second ahead of Paul-Luc Caftan, who's lifted off for this lap, but Nico Lapierre hasn't and may well go quicker again.
Into Europol's LMP2 car was off the track down at Hotel Corner, rejoins at Virage Dupont, and actually impedes the United Autosports car a little bit there as well. That may have been Alex Brundle, if not Paul di Resta.
Caftan goes to the top this time, 65 thousandths or 6.5 hundredths of a second to the good now. We're not measuring these in seconds or even in tenths. No. It's Caftan from Nato, from Lapierre, from Ben Hanley.
Big wiggle under braking for car 37 though, with Nicolas Lapierre still pushing incredibly hard. He lost a bit of time through the final sector, and back over the line goes the Duquesne Engineering machine of Jamin, who's back into the top 10, so briefly was fourth, had that time taken away from him, so is now 8th for Duquesne Engineering.
Yeah, the qualifying lap record, by the way, has just been smashed to smithereens by numerous cars here. Forget that one for the moment. It's going to be whoever sits on pole will hold that title for the time being. Paul-Luc Caftan sits there at the moment with a 140.077, just under 2 minutes to go. Who looks like they could improve.
Algarve Pro about to go over the line, and Andrea Pizzitola still there in 11th position, but quite a collection of LMP2 cars due at any moment. Paul-Luc Caftan not lighting up the timing screens this time around. Doesn't need to. He's got this margin of 65 thousandths of a second.
Here comes Ben Hanley for what will be his last crack at this one. Interestingly, Alex Brundle pitted and has brought the number 32 United Autosports car out from 6th with enough time just to get around for a final crack at this one.
Yeah, with brand new tyres, you would think as well.
Paul di Resta going quicker this time around. Is that going to be good enough to trouble pole position? Well, I'm not going to count against it. I suspect it won't quite get there. But a minute left on the clock.
And remember that the United Autosports cars entered just with 2 drivers, each of them, and Michelin tyres this year too. So Alex Brundle racing with Ryan Cullen, and Paul di Resta is out for qualifying duty racing with Phil Hansen, defending Asian Le Mans Series champions.
They are indeed. It will be Felipe Albuquerque for the remainder of the season. Felipe on IMSA duty this weekend, of course. But Paul di Resta is not a bad super sub, is he?
Certainly not.
I expect to see all 3 of those at Le Mans this year for the team.
Came very close to a DTM title last year as well, did the Scot. Half a minute to go, and over the line then goes Paul di Resta in number 22.
Improves his time but not the position, stays 5th, waiting with 17 seconds on the clock to see whether or not Alex Brundle can get around and start a fast lap. It's going to be tight. It's going to be very tight.
Yeah. Well, into senior corner goes the Paul de Chatac car, and an extra lap gained then by Alex Brundle. And have they pulled off something very clever indeed here at United Autosports, because the man from Norfolk, Kingsley, has a new set of tyres beneath him. Aurus over the line. And Norman Nato goes to pole. 25 thousandths of a second, Norman Nato.
Wow.
So there is a big, big question to everybody else. With virtually no time left in the session, what have you got?
Well, it looks to me Paul de Resta's out there and going quickly. Anders Fjordbach is out there and going quickly. Alex Brundle quickly, but not quite quick enough, I don't think.
Caftan pitted, so he's no longer in the reckoning. A front row start at the moment for Edex Sport.
So Nato, Caftan, Lapierre, Hanley will not improve in that order. Next up for a potential improvement is Paul de Resta.
Yeah, Fjordbach home for high-class racing. It's going to be no better than 7th place, but they'll be happy with that, I reckon.
The two United cars are still out there. High-class racing, Fjordbach, yes, in 7th position. Good result for them. Nico Jamin didn't really seem to gather himself after that. That was deleted, did it?
No.
Andrea Pizzitola somewhat further back than we'd have expected, the reigning champion.
Here comes de Resta, and no improvement for Paul de Resta, so 2 more cars expected over the line imminently. It'll be the Algarve Pro car of Andrea Pizzitola, defending champion from last year, and the number 32 of Alex Brundle. They're the last 2 cars expected across the line. Pizzitola appears now, and it's no improvement for the Frenchman, but Brundle to 3rd.
Wow.
Alex Brundle on the new tyre, the new Michelin's number 32 for United Autosports, snatching a 2nd row start.
Top 4 under 0.3 of a second. Excellent stuff from Alex Brundle, but Alex being Alex and the professional racing driver that he is, will be disappointed.
Yeah.
He will feel there might just have been more, but congratulations G-Drive Racing and their super sub, Norman Nato. There are the other 2 drivers, these 2 full season drivers, Roman Runoff on the left hand side, Joep van Utrecht, young Dutch driver and reigning LMP3 champion, steps up to LMP2 this season and will be a full season G-Drive Racing man.
So narrow between the top 2 cars. 140.0 pays 140.0. 25 thousandths of a second between Norman Nato and Paul-Luc Chatin's time. Alex Brundle leaving it incredibly late to get onto the 2nd row of the grid for car number 32, and it's Cool Racing. Nicolas Lapierre getting their number 37 Orica into 4th position. Ahead of Ben Hanley and the Dragon Speed car, Paul de Resta will start from 6th place, also for United. But high class, Duquesne, Carlin and Graf all represented in the top 10 positions. Another frenetic session. Time that we get some reaction from G-Drive Racing now and Louise Beckett.
G-Drive continuing their dominant performance here in ELMS. Great performance from Norman.
Yeah, I think it's really good that we did pole position. Yeah, we was not expecting that, so I think it's already a good start from the season. So let's hope for the race now.
Okay, thanks very much.
Roman Runoff and Joep van Utrecht, you said just to his left earlier. He's crept back into the garage now. Yes, the Aurus, that's the first ever in ACO racing, an Aurus on pole position, Greg.
Yeah, it is indeed. We should explain to those that have been following this story in recent weeks. Aurus is the it's Russian maker of the state limousine in Russia, now with international sales on the horizon, and have opted to invest in re-homologating this car in exactly the same way as Signatec Alpine do in the FIWC. That is now an Aurus 01. It is absolutely exactly the same as the other Orica 07s in this field.
It's just that it's coach built.
Just it's the cocktail cabinets. It's the one thing I would say about it is exactly 25 thousandths of a second quicker than the rest of them.
Yes, indeed. And that's all it takes, isn't it? 25 thousandths of a second. I reckon Paul-Luc Chatin didn't quite think he had it in the bag, but couldn't really push much more than that because, I mean, look at the gap between Nato and Caftan's time and everybody else. You're talking over 0.2 of a second.
Well, here's something else significant. The top 6 cars in the order, 2 Ligers, by the way, in there, 3rd and 6th, both United cars. The top 6 cars, 5 of them on Michelin tyres, apart from the top car.
Yes,
which
yes.
Has brought home another pole position for Dunlop. So there's all sorts of stuff going on in the European Le Mans Series here. This, well, so-called spec LMP2 class continues to bring just these touches of variety to it, make all the difference.
Yeah, so here is the official classification of this is all 3 classes combined effectively, and the top 10 are easily LMP2. The first LMP3 car then is found in 17th position. That was the Oregon team car driven by Damiano Fioravanti. Well done to him and all involved at Oregon, who've made a big step forward from 18 into 19. And the GT cars, 9 of them will be tacked on to the back, but again there's a little bit of overlap, I think, between the slowest of the LMP3s and the quickest of the Grand Tourers. So the Auris is being wheeled down pit lane to be received, I'm sure, by a rapturous round of applause and G-Drive Racing. They are defending champions from 2018 and they've started the new year very nicely indeed. A wave from Julien Canal. Good to have Duquesne and another EDEX Sport, United Autosports. The gang are back together for 2019 from Graham Goodwin and from Johnny Palmer. Join us for the race tomorrow at 12:30. Bye-bye.